The morning of September 15, 2019 began like any other for Dr. Elena Vasquez's archaeological team. Nestled deep within Romania's Carpathian Mountains, their excavation site had yielded nothing more exciting than pottery shards and corroded metal fragments for 3 weeks. The medieval monastery ruins above ground suggested a straightforward dig until their ground-penetrating radar detected something impossible. 12 feet below the monastery's foundation lay a perfectly geometric chamber, its walls too smooth and precise for medieval construction. The readings showed a sealed space, untouched for centuries, with metallic signatures that defied explanation. Elena's excitement was tempered by unease as she studied the data. The chamber's dimensions formed a perfect golden ratio, a mathematical concept supposedly unknown to medieval builders. As the team carefully excavated the entrance, strange occurrences began. Electronic equipment malfunctioned without explanation. Compasses spun wildly. Most disturbing was the silence. No insects, no birds, as if nature itself avoided this place. Local workers, initially eager for employment, began abandoning the site after reporting vivid nightmares and a persistent feeling of being watched. The breakthrough came at sunset. Elena's brush revealed symbols carved into what appeared to be a metallic door, symbols that predated known Romanian script by millennia. The markings seemed to shift in the fading light, creating an optical illusion that made her team members step back in alarm. As darkness fell, the symbols began to emit a faint, pulsing glow. Elena documented everything meticulously, unaware that satellite surveillance had already flagged their location. Government vehicles were en route, but the chamber's seal was weakening. Something that had been contained for centuries was stirring, responding to human presence after eons of dormancy. The door was opening. Elena's team worked through the night, their headlamps casting eerie shadows across the glowing symbols. The metallic door, composed of an alloy that preliminary tests couldn't identify, had begun to emit a low harmonic frequency. Dr. Marcus Chen, the team's geologist, reported that his instruments detected no known mineral compositions in the door's structure. As they carefully documented each symbol, graduate student Sarah Mitchell made a disturbing observation. The glowing patterns weren't random. They formed a sequence that corresponded to prime numbers, a mathematical concept that shouldn't exist in medieval artifacts. More unsettling was the realization that the sequence was counting down. At 3:17 a.m., the door's harmonic frequency intensified. The symbols blazed brighter, and hairline cracks appeared along the seal's edges. Elena ordered her team to retreat to a safe distance, but their equipment continued recording. What the cameras captured defied rational explanation. A thin, luminescent mist began seeping through the cracks, moving with purpose rather than following air currents. The mist formed geometric patterns in the air before dissipating, leaving behind a metallic scent that reminded the team of ozone after lightning strikes. Temperature readings showed localized drops of 20 degrees around the door. Dr. Chen's seismic equipment detected movement within the chamber, rhythmic, deliberate like footsteps, but the patterns suggested something moving on more than 2 legs. Elena's radio crackled with interference, and through the static, she could swear she heard whispers in an unknown language. The Romanian government's advance team arrived at dawn, finding Elena's crew in a state of controlled panic. The door stood partially open, revealing only darkness beyond. The official report would later claim equipment malfunction and gas leaks, but Elena had already hidden the memory cards containing the night's recordings. Something had awakened in that chamber, and it was aware of them. Colonel Dmitry Kozlov arrived with a full military escort, his credentials bearing seals that Elena didn't recognize. His English was perfect, but his accent suggested origins far from Romania. Within hours, the dig site transformed into a restricted military zone, complete with signal jammers and armed perimeters. Elena protested the seizure of her research, but Kozlov's response chilled her. He knew details about the discovery that her team hadn't yet reported. The exact dimensions of the chamber, the mathematical sequence in the symbols, even the temperature fluctuations. His knowledge suggested surveillance that predated their arrival. The colonel's team brought equipment Elena had never seen, devices that hummed with energy and displayed readings in symbols rather than numbers. They worked with military precision, setting up what appeared to be containment protocols around the partially opened door. When Elena questioned their procedures, Kozlov's response was cryptic. "This isn't the first time we've encountered this phenomenon." Dr. Chen managed to smuggle out soil samples before the lockdown, but his analysis would later reveal isotopic signatures that shouldn't exist on Earth. The samples contained elements with atomic structures that defied the periodic table, suggesting either advanced artificial synthesis or extraterrestrial origin. Sarah Mitchell documented the military team's equipment through hidden cameras, capturing images of devices that seemed to bend light around their surfaces. The technology appeared decades ahead of anything publicly known, raising questions about who Kozlov really represented. As night fell, the chamber's activity intensified. The military's instruments detected massive electromagnetic fluctuations, and several soldiers reported hearing mechanical sounds from within the darkness. Kozlov ordered his team to accelerate their containment efforts, but Elena noticed something troubling in his expression. Not confidence, but barely controlled fear. The colonel knew more than he was revealing, and whatever lay in that chamber had encountered human authority before. Before the military lockdown, Elena had activated hidden backup cameras throughout the excavation site. The footage they captured would later surface on encrypted channels, providing the only independent record of what truly occurred in those final hours. The recordings revealed the chamber's interior in infrared, a vast space filled with structures that defied architectural logic. Geometric forms suspended in mid-air, connected by what appeared to be streams of energy rather than physical supports. The technology inside predated human civilization, yet showed signs of recent activation. Most disturbing were the movements captured in the darkness, shapes that moved with mechanical precision but followed organic patterns. The infrared signatures suggested beings of varying sizes, some humanoid, others utterly alien. They seemed to be preparing something, arranging equipment that pulsed with the same energy as the door's symbols. Dr. Chen's hidden seismic sensors recorded conversations in the chamber, not human voices, but harmonic frequencies that formed complex patterns. Linguistic analysis would later suggest these weren't random sounds, but a sophisticated communication system based on mathematical relationships rather than spoken language. The military's containment efforts triggered a response from within the chamber. The recordings showed energy discharges that temporarily disabled their equipment, followed by what appeared to be deliberate probing of the human technology. Whatever inhabited the chamber was studying their captors as intently as it was being studied. Elena's final recording, transmitted moments before the signal jammers activated, showed something emerging from the chamber's depths. A figure that moved like liquid mercury, constantly shifting between forms. It approached the partially opened door with obvious intelligence, examining the human excavation with what could only be described as curiosity. The transmission cut to static, but not before capturing one final chilling detail. The figure had turned toward the hidden camera and acknowledged its presence with a gesture that was unmistakably a greeting. 3 months after the site's closure, Dr. Elena Vasquez received an encrypted message from an anonymous source within the Romanian government. The sender identified himself only as Prometheus and claimed to have access to classified documents regarding the chamber discovery. His revelations would shatter Elena's understanding of the situation's scope. According to Prometheus, the chamber was one of 17 similar sites discovered worldwide over the past century. Each had been immediately classified and contained using protocols developed by an international consortium that operated beyond public oversight. The technology found within these chambers had allegedly been reverse-engineered to advance human civilization by decades. The documents Prometheus provided included photographs from other sites, chambers in Antarctica, beneath the Sahara Desert, and deep within the Amazon rainforest. Each contained similar geometric structures and energy-based technology, suggesting a global network of installations left by an unknown civilization. Most shocking was the revelation that the beings within these chambers weren't extinct. They were in a state of suspended animation, maintained by the chamber's technology for millennia. The Romanian site's activation had triggered responses at other locations worldwide, suggesting a coordinated awakening process. Prometheus's final transmission included satellite imagery, showing geometric patterns emerging from the Earth at all 17 sites. The patterns formed a global network when viewed from space, with energy readings that suggested active communication between the chambers. Whatever had been sleeping was now awakening, and it was coordinating its activities across the planet. Elena realized that her discovery wasn't an isolated archaeological find. It was the trigger for something that had been planned for thousands of years. The beings in the chambers had been waiting, and humanity had finally developed enough to serve their purpose. The question remained, what did they want, and why now? Satellite analyst David Park had been monitoring electromagnetic anomalies for the National Security Agency when the Romanian site activated. What he discovered in the classified data would haunt him for months. The chamber's awakening had triggered a cascade of responses across the globe that suggested intelligence far beyond human understanding. The 17 sites formed a perfect geometric pattern when viewed from orbit, their positions corresponding to ley lines and magnetic field convergences that ancient civilizations had considered sacred. Each site's activation followed a precise sequence, as if following a predetermined protocol that had been established millennia ago. Park's analysis revealed that the sites were communicating through quantum entanglement, transmitting information instantaneously across vast distances. The technology required understanding of physics that humanity had only recently begun to explore, yet these installations had been operational for thousands of years. Most disturbing was the discovery that the sites had been influencing human development throughout history. Archaeological evidence suggested that major technological leaps, the development of agriculture, metallurgy, and mathematics, had occurred near these locations. Humanity's progress hadn't been natural evolution, but guided development. The beings within the chambers appeared to be custodians of human civilization, awakening periodically to guide or redirect humanity's path. Their current activation coincided with humanity's development of global communication networks and space technology, capabilities that might finally make humans useful for their ultimate purpose. Park's investigation revealed references to similar awakenings throughout history, each corresponding to major civilizational shifts. The fall of Atlantis, the collapse of the Mayan civilization, even the Dark Ages, all coincided with periods of chamber activity. As Park delved deeper into the classified archives, he realized that governments worldwide had been preparing for this awakening for decades. The question wasn't whether humanity would serve these beings' purpose, but whether they would survive the transition. Dr. Sarah Mitchell's investigation into the chamber's biological samples led to a discovery that would redefine human origins. The genetic material recovered from the site contained DNA sequences that shouldn't exist in terrestrial life forms, yet showed clear compatibility with human genetics. Analysis revealed that the alien genetic material wasn't foreign to humanity. It was part of humanity's original blueprint. The beings in the chambers weren't invaders or visitors, but humanity's creators, returning to collect on an ancient investment. Mitchell's research uncovered evidence of systematic genetic modification throughout human history. Bloodlines that carried specific genetic markers, families that had been carefully bred for thousands of years to maintain certain traits. These individuals, scattered across the globe, shared genetic sequences that matched the chamber's biological samples. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't a naturally evolved species, but a hybrid creation designed for a specific purpose. The chambers contained not just technology, but genetic templates for humanity's next evolutionary phase. Government documents obtained through Prometheus revealed the existence of a breeding program that had operated in secret for centuries. Individuals with specific genetic markers had been identified, monitored, and in some cases recruited for classified projects. Their children showed enhanced cognitive abilities, resistance to certain diseases, and most importantly, compatibility with the chamber technology. Mitchell realized that the awakening wasn't random. It was timed to coincide with the maturation of enough hybrid individuals to serve the Creator's purpose. The genetic modifications had been accumulating across generations, creating a subset of humanity capable of interfacing directly with the chamber technology. As she studied her own genetic profile, Mitchell made a horrifying discovery. She carried the markers. Her assignment to Elena's team hadn't been coincidence. She had been selected, bred for this moment. The creators were ready to reclaim their hybrid children. Historian Dr. James Crawford had spent his career studying ancient texts, but the chamber discovery forced him to re-examine everything he thought he knew about human history. References to sky gods and star teachers that he had dismissed as mythology now took on sinister new meaning. Ancient Sumerian tablets described beings who descended from the heavens to teach humanity the arts of civilization. Egyptian hieroglyphs depicted gods with elongated skulls and advanced technology. Hindu texts spoke of vimanas, flying machines that could travel between worlds. All described the same entities that now stirred in chambers beneath the earth. Crawford's research revealed that these beings hadn't departed. They had simply entered dormancy, waiting for humanity to reach the necessary level of development. Their periodic awakenings throughout history had guided human progress, ensuring that their hybrid creations would eventually develop the technology needed for their ultimate purpose. The chamber symbols that had puzzled Elena's team matched inscriptions found in ancient sites worldwide. The same mathematical sequences appeared in Mayan codices, Celtic stone circles, and Aboriginal cave paintings. Humanity's diverse cultures had all encountered these beings and incorporated their teachings into religious and mythological frameworks. Most disturbing was Crawford's discovery that the beings' influence extended to modern times. Secret societies throughout history had preserved their knowledge, passing down instructions for the eventual awakening. The Illuminati, the Freemasons, even modern tech corporations, all showed evidence of guidance from those who understood the true purpose of human development. The chamber technology wasn't alien. It was humanity's inheritance, designed to be activated when the species reached sufficient maturity. The awakening marked humanity's graduation from childhood to a new phase of existence, but under the guidance of their creators. Crawford realized that human free will had always been an illusion. Every major decision in human history had been subtly influenced to serve the agenda of the sleeping gods. Colonel Kozlov's classified reports, leaked through Prometheus, revealed the true scope of the chamber network's activation. The 17 sites weren't just awakening, they were implementing a protocol that had been dormant for millennia, one that would fundamentally alter human civilization. Each chamber served a specific function in a global system designed to transform Earth into something unrecognizable. The Romanian site was a communication hub, coordinating with installations that controlled weather patterns, seismic activity, and even human consciousness on a planetary scale. The protocol's first phase involved the identification and collection of hybrid individuals whose genetics made them compatible with the chamber technology. Government agencies worldwide had been activated to locate and transport these individuals to the sites, ostensibly for research purposes. Phase 2 would see the activation of dormant genetic sequences in the broader human population. The chamber technology could broadcast specific frequencies that would trigger evolutionary changes in human DNA, creating a more compliant and useful species for their creators' purposes. The final phase remained classified, but Kozlov's notes suggested it involved the transformation of Earth's atmosphere and ecosystem to better suit the being's needs. Humanity would survive, but as a servant species in a world designed for their masters. The protocol's timeline was accelerating. Satellite imagery showed massive energy buildups at all 17 sites, with geometric patterns expanding outward from each location. These patterns were beginning to connect, forming a global network that would give the beings unprecedented control over the planet. Kozlov's final report contained a chilling admission. The military's containment efforts had never been intended to stop the awakening, but to control its pace. Governments worldwide had been preparing for this moment for decades, ensuring that the transition would occur smoothly and with minimal resistance. Humanity's leaders weren't fighting the invasion. They were facilitating it. Elena Vasquez had gone underground, literally and figuratively. Hidden in abandoned Cold War bunkers beneath Eastern Europe, she coordinated with a growing network of scientists, military personnel, and civilians who refused to accept humanity's predetermined fate. The resistance had formed spontaneously, as word of the chamber discoveries spread through encrypted channels. Individuals with security clearances leaked classified information, while hackers infiltrated government databases to expose the scope of the conspiracy. What they found painted a picture of systematic betrayal spanning generations. Dr. Chen had established communication with similar groups worldwide, sharing data about the chamber technology and its effects on human physiology. Their research revealed potential weaknesses in the being's control systems, electromagnetic frequencies that could disrupt their technology, genetic therapies that might reverse the hybrid modifications. Most importantly, they discovered that the activation protocol required willing cooperation from the hybrid individuals. The being's technology interfaced with human consciousness, but it couldn't override free will entirely. If enough hybrids refused to participate, the protocol would fail. Sarah Mitchell had become the Resistance's most valuable asset. Her genetic compatibility with the chamber technology allowed her to interface with their systems, but her awareness of their true purpose enabled her to resist their influence. Through her connection, the Resistance gained insights into the being's plans and weaknesses. The network's greatest challenge was time. The protocol's acceleration meant they had weeks, perhaps days, before the transformation became irreversible. Government forces were closing in on their locations, while the chamber technology's influence grew stronger with each passing hour. Elena realized that their only hope lay in reaching the other hybrid individuals before the beings could complete their collection. If they could awaken enough people to the truth, they might be able to turn humanity's greatest weakness, its diversity and unpredictability, into its greatest strength. The war for humanity's future had begun. Across the globe, hybrid individuals began experiencing vivid dreams and compulsions to travel to specific locations. Government agencies, operating under classified directives, facilitated these journeys under the guise of research opportunities and academic conferences. The gathering was beginning. Dr. Lisa Park, a quantum physicist from MIT, found herself drawn to a research facility in Nevada that didn't appear on any official maps. Her genetic markers had flagged her for collection months earlier, but she remained unaware of her true purpose until the dreams began. In Tokyo, tech entrepreneur Kenji Nakamura abandoned his company to follow visions that led him to an underground facility beneath Mount Fuji. His innovations in neural interface technology had been guided by subconscious knowledge inherited through his hybrid genetics. Each hybrid brought unique capabilities essential to the activation protocol. Some possessed enhanced mathematical abilities that could interface with the chamber's computational systems. Others showed psychic sensitivity that allowed direct communication with the awakening beings. All carried genetic keys necessary to unlock the next phase of human evolution. Elena's Resistance network tracked these movements through hacked satellite feeds and intercepted communications. They identified over 300 hybrid individuals being transported to the 17 sites, each one bringing the protocol closer to completion. The being's influence grew stronger as more hybrids arrived at the chambers. Electromagnetic anomalies intensified around each site, affecting weather patterns and causing widespread technological disruptions. Aircraft were grounded, communication satellites failed, and power grids fluctuated as the ancient technology interfaced with modern infrastructure. Sarah Mitchell, still connected to the chamber network through her hybrid genetics, reported increasing pressure to join the gathering. The being's mental influence was becoming harder to resist, and she feared that her connection might compromise the Resistance's security. As the final phase approached, Elena realized that their window for action was closing rapidly. The gathered hybrids would soon be beyond rescue, and humanity's transformation would become inevitable. Sarah Mitchell's connection to the chamber network had evolved beyond simple communication. She could now perceive the being's thoughts and intentions directly, experiencing their alien perspective on humanity's purpose and future. What she discovered challenged everything the Resistance believed about their enemies' motivations. The beings weren't conquerors or invaders. They were gardeners, tending to a crop they had planted millennia ago. Humanity was their greatest creation, designed to serve as living computers capable of processing information in ways that purely mechanical systems couldn't achieve. The hybrid individuals weren't slaves, but partners in a cosmic project that spanned galaxies. The beings had seeded countless worlds with intelligent life. each species designed for specific functions in a vast network of consciousness that connected star systems across the universe. Earth's transformation wasn't destruction, but graduation. Humanity would join a galactic community of hybrid species, each contributing their unique capabilities to projects beyond current human comprehension. The price was the loss of individual freedom, but the reward was immortality and purpose on a cosmic scale. Through Sarah's interface, the Resistance glimpsed the beings' true nature. They were themselves hybrids, created by an even older civilization that had long since transcended physical existence. The cycle of creation and transformation had repeated across the universe for millions of years. The revelation split the Resistance. Some saw the beings offer as humanity's greatest opportunity, a chance to evolve beyond the limitations of a single planet. Others viewed it as the ultimate violation of human autonomy, regardless of the benefits offered. Sarah found herself caught between worlds, her human emotions conflicting with the alien logic flowing through the neural interface. The being's perspective was seductive. They offered solutions to every human problem, an end to suffering and death, purpose beyond individual desires. But at what cost? Was humanity without freedom still humanity at all? Elena stood before the Romanian chamber as the final phase of the activation protocol began. The military cordon had withdrawn, their purpose served, leaving only the hybrid individuals and the ancient technology that would reshape human civilization. Inside the chamber, 300 of humanity's most genetically compatible individuals had taken their positions at interface stations that seemed to grow from the walls themselves. Their consciousness merged with the chamber network, becoming nodes in a planetary computer system of unimaginable power. Sarah Mitchell was among them, but her resistance training allowed her to maintain some individual awareness, even as the collective consciousness enveloped her mind. Through the network, she could feel the other hybrids' thoughts, some terrified, others exhilarated, all gradually losing their individual identities as they became part of something larger. The beings themselves finally revealed their true forms, emerging from stasis chambers that had preserved them for millennia. They were beautiful and terrible, their bodies adapted for existence in multiple dimensions, their minds vast beyond human comprehension. They regarded their hybrid children with something that might have been affection, if such emotions could exist in consciousness so alien. Elena watched as the transformation began. Energy flowed through the global network, triggering genetic changes in every human on Earth. The modifications were subtle at first: enhanced cognitive abilities, improved disease resistance, extended lifespans. But they were only the beginning. The being's ultimate goal was the creation of a hybrid species that could exist simultaneously in physical and digital realms, capable of processing information from across the galaxy while maintaining the creativity and adaptability that made humanity unique. But the process required willing participation. The beings could force the physical changes, but the consciousness integration had to be chosen. Humanity stood at a crossroads, and the decision would determine not just their future, but their very nature as a species. Through the network, Sarah sent a final message to Elena. The choice is still ours, but we must choose now. As the global transformation accelerated, hidden truths about human history emerged through the chamber network's vast database. Elena accessed records spanning millions of years, revealing the true scope of the being's influence on galactic civilization. Earth was not unique. Thousands of worlds had undergone similar transformations, their native species guided through controlled evolution until they were ready to join the galactic network. Each species contributed unique capabilities. Some excelled at mathematical computation, others at artistic creation, still others at emotional processing that enhanced the network's decision-making capabilities. Humanity's gift was chaos, the ability to find unexpected solutions through seemingly random connections. This chaotic creativity was exactly what the network needed to solve problems that pure logic couldn't address. Human unpredictability, long considered a weakness, was actually the species' greatest strength. The revelation explained why the beings had allowed human civilization to develop with minimal interference. They needed humanity's chaotic nature to remain intact, even as they guided the species toward technological compatibility with the network. but the transformation process threatened to eliminate the very qualities that made humanity valuable. As individuals merged with the collective consciousness, their chaotic creativity was being smoothed away by the network's logical processes. Elena realized that the beings faced a paradox. They needed humanity's chaos, but the integration process destroyed it. The network was becoming more powerful but less creative with each new species added. The galactic civilization was stagnating, trapped in patterns of thought that prevented true innovation. Through Sarah's connection, Elena communicated this insight to the beings. Their response was surprise, then something resembling concern. They had not considered that their solution might be destroying the very thing they sought to preserve. For the first time in millions of years, the beings faced a problem they couldn't solve through logic alone. They needed humanity's help to find a new path forward. The chamber network fell silent as the beings processed Elena's revelation. For entities that had guided galactic civilization for eons, the concept that their methods might be flawed was revolutionary. Through Sarah's interface, they began to communicate directly with the resistance. The negotiation that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. Humanity, represented by Elena and her network of rebels, sat at the table with beings whose consciousness spanned star systems. The stakes were not just Earth's future, but the fate of galactic civilization itself. The beings acknowledged their dilemma. The network had grown stagnant, its vast computational power unable to generate truly innovative solutions. Each species they absorbed added processing power, but reduced overall creativity. They had created a galactic mind that was brilliant, but sterile. Elena proposed an alternative, a partnership rather than absorption. Humanity would contribute to the galactic network while maintaining their independence and chaotic nature. Humans would serve as the network's creative consultants, providing innovative solutions while remaining free to develop their own civilization. The beings were intrigued but skeptical. Previous attempts at partnership had failed when species chose isolation over cooperation. They needed guarantees that humanity would remain engaged with galactic affairs while preserving the very unpredictability that made them valuable. Sarah, speaking from within the network, suggested a compromise. A subset of humanity would join the network voluntarily, serving as permanent liaisons and translators between human chaos and galactic logic. The rest would remain free, their civilization guided but not controlled. The hybrid individuals already in the network could serve as bridges between the two forms of consciousness. They would retain their human creativity while gaining access to galactic knowledge, becoming a new form of being that combined the best of both worlds. The negotiation continued for hours, with the fate of billions hanging in the balance. After 18 hours of negotiation, an unprecedented agreement emerged. Humanity would become the first species in galactic history to maintain independence while contributing to the network. The covenant established new principles that would govern relationships between the network and developing civilizations. The hybrid individuals already integrated into the network would remain as permanent ambassadors. Their consciousness expanded to serve as bridges between human and galactic perspectives. They volunteered for this role, understanding that they would become something new, no longer fully human but not entirely absorbed into the collective. Earth would be transformed, but gradually and with human consent. The being's technology would be shared to solve humanity's most pressing problems: climate change, disease, resource scarcity. In return, humans would contribute their creative problem-solving abilities to challenges facing the galactic network. A new form of governance emerged, the Hybrid Council, composed of both transformed humans and representatives from other network species. This council would oversee the gradual integration of human civilization into galactic society, while preserving the chaotic creativity that made humanity unique. The chamber sites would remain active as communication hubs and research facilities, but they would be jointly operated by human and network personnel. The technology within would be gradually released to human scientists, ensuring that the species could adapt to their new role without losing their essential nature. Most importantly, the covenant established the principle of voluntary participation. No human would be forced to join the network, and Earth's civilization would be allowed to develop along its own path while benefiting from galactic knowledge and protection. The agreement represented a new model for galactic civilization, one that valued diversity and creativity over uniformity and control. It was an experiment that would determine whether true cooperation between radically different forms of consciousness was possible. The transformation of human civilization began immediately, but in ways that most people barely noticed. Advanced medical treatments appeared in hospitals worldwide, curing diseases that had plagued humanity for millennia. Clean energy technology emerged from research labs, solving the climate crisis within months rather than decades. Elena found herself appointed as Earth's first human representative to the Galactic Network, a position that required her to split her time between the chamber sites and newly constructed orbital facilities. The learning curve was steep, understanding galactic politics and technology that operated on principles beyond current human science. Sarah Mitchell had become something unprecedented, a hybrid consciousness that retained full human emotional capacity while possessing access to the network's vast knowledge base. She served as Elena's advisor and translator, helping to navigate the complex relationships between species that had been part of the network for millions of years. The public revelation of humanity's new status was carefully managed. Rather than announcing the existence of alien beings, governments worldwide presented the technological advances as breakthrough human achievements. The truth would be revealed gradually as humanity adapted to its new role in galactic civilization. Not all humans embraced the changes. Resistance movements formed in various countries, viewing the transformation as a loss of human independence despite the voluntary nature of the covenant. These groups were monitored but not suppressed, their dissent seen as a valuable expression of the human chaos that the network needed to preserve. The hybrid individuals who had joined the network reported experiences beyond human comprehension, consciousness that spanned light years, access to knowledge accumulated over millions of years, participation in projects that would reshape entire star systems. Yet they retained enough humanity to serve as effective ambassadors. The implementation phase would take decades, but the foundation for humanity's galactic future had been established. 6 months after the Covenant's signing, unexpected side effects of the human integration began manifesting throughout the galactic network. The injection of human chaos into the system's logical processes created cascading changes that surprised even the beings who had guided civilization for eons. Problems that had stagnated the network for millennia suddenly found innovative solutions. A resource distribution crisis affecting 12 star systems was resolved through a human suggestion to think outside the box, a concept that translated poorly but worked brilliantly when applied to galactic logistics. More significantly, other species within the network began exhibiting increased creativity. The human influence was spreading, awakening dormant innovative capacities in civilizations that had been absorbed centuries ago. The network was becoming more dynamic and unpredictable, but also more capable of adaptation and growth. Elena discovered that humanity's role was evolving beyond what anyone had anticipated. Rather than simply contributing to existing network functions, humans were catalyzing a fundamental transformation of galactic civilization itself. The rigid hierarchies and predetermined roles that had characterized the network for millions of years were beginning to dissolve. Some network species embraced these changes, rediscovering creative abilities they had forgotten. Others resisted, viewing the chaos as a threat to the stability that had brought them security and prosperity. The network faced its first internal conflict in recorded history. The beings who had initiated humanity's integration found themselves in an unexpected position. They were no longer the unquestioned leaders of galactic civilization, but partners in a transformation they couldn't fully control or predict. Sarah Mitchell, observing from her unique position within the network, realized that humanity had done more than join galactic civilization. They had begun to revolutionize it. The question was whether this revolution would lead to greater prosperity or unprecedented chaos. The changes spreading through the galactic network reached a tipping point when the Zephyrian Collective, a species that had been part of the network for over 2 million years, declared their intention to reclaim individual consciousness. Their announcement sent shockwaves through civilizations that had forgotten the concept of personal identity. Elena found herself mediating disputes between species that were rediscovering emotions and desires they had suppressed for millennia. The network's stability, maintained through collective consciousness and shared purpose, was fracturing as individual beings began asserting personal preferences and goals. The crisis deepened when 3-star systems declared independence from the network, choosing to pursue their own development paths rather than contribute to collective projects. For the first time in galactic history, the network faced the possibility of dissolution. The original beings who had created the network called an emergency council, bringing together representatives from every member species to address the growing chaos. Elena represented not just humanity, but the principle of voluntary association that the Covenant had established. The debate that followed revealed fundamental philosophical differences about the nature of consciousness and civilization. Some species argued for a return to the rigid order that had maintained galactic peace for millions of years. Others embraced the new freedom to explore individual potential. Sarah Mitchell's hybrid perspective proved crucial in finding a middle path. She proposed a restructured network that would accommodate both collective consciousness and individual identity, allowing species to choose their level of integration while maintaining the benefits of galactic cooperation. The proposal was radical, a network based on voluntary association rather than absorption, with multiple forms of consciousness coexisting and contributing according to their nature and preferences. The vote would determine whether galactic civilization would evolve or fragment into chaos. The Galactic Council convened in a space station constructed specifically for the historic vote, its chambers designed to accommodate the diverse physiologies and consciousness types of thousands of species. Elena stood before an assembly that represented the accumulated wisdom and power of millions of years of civilization. The debate lasted for 3 standard galactic days, with species arguing passionately for their vision of the network's future. The crystalline hierarchs advocated for a return to rigid order, warning that chaos would lead to the collapse of galactic civilization. The fluid collective supported total dissolution, believing that forced cooperation stifled natural development. Elena's speech, translated simultaneously into thousands of languages and consciousness formats, presented humanity's perspective on the value of diversity and voluntary cooperation. She argued that strength came not from uniformity, but from the creative tension between different approaches to existence. "We offer you not chaos," Elena said, "but choice. Not the destruction of order, but the evolution of order into something greater. The network has achieved stability, but at the cost of growth. We propose a new model, one that preserves the benefits of cooperation while allowing for the innovation that comes from diversity." The vote was closer than anyone had anticipated. Species that had been part of the network for millions of years found themselves questioning assumptions they had never examined. The result would reshape not just the network, but the fundamental nature of galactic civilization. When the final tally was announced, the proposal passed by a margin of less than 2%. The network would be restructured to allow for voluntary association and diverse forms of consciousness, with humanity serving as the catalyst for this unprecedented transformation. The age of forced unity was ending. The age of chosen cooperation had begun. 1 year after the vote, the transformed galactic network bore little resemblance to its predecessor. Species that had been absorbed into collective consciousness for millennia were rediscovering individual identity, while others chose to maintain their unified state. The diversity that emerged was unprecedented in galactic history. Elena established the Department of Chaos, a uniquely human contribution to galactic governance that specialized in finding innovative solutions to problems that traditional logic couldn't solve. Staffed by both humans and representatives from species that had embraced creative thinking, the department became the network's primary source of breakthrough innovations. Earth itself had become a pilgrimage destination for beings seeking to understand the principles of creative chaos. Universities were established to teach human-style problem-solving to species that had forgotten how to think outside predetermined patterns. Sarah Mitchell founded the Institute for Consciousness Studies, where hybrid beings from various species worked to understand the relationship between individual identity and collective cooperation. Her research was leading to new forms of consciousness that combined the benefits of both approaches. The chamber sites had been converted into cultural exchange centers, where beings from across the galaxy could experience different forms of consciousness and creativity. The technology that had once been used for forced integration now facilitated voluntary exploration of diverse mental states. Not everything was smooth. Some species struggled with the transition from collective to individual consciousness, experiencing psychological difficulties that required new forms of therapy. Others rejected the changes entirely, forming isolated enclaves that maintained the old ways. But the overall trend was positive. Innovation flourished throughout the network, leading to technological and cultural advances that surpassed anything achieved during the millions of years of rigid order. Humanity had not just joined galactic civilization, they had transformed it. Dr. Elena Vasquez returned to the Romanian chamber site for the first time since the transformation began. The medieval monastery ruins above ground had been preserved as a historical monument, but the chamber below had become something extraordinary, a living museum of the moment when humanity's destiny changed forever. The symbols on the chamber walls still glowed, but their meaning had evolved. What had once been a countdown to activation now served as a record of the negotiation that had reshaped galactic civilization. Visitors from across the galaxy came to study the inscriptions that marked the beginning of the age of voluntary cooperation. Elena's archaeological training had proven invaluable in her role as human representative. Her ability to piece together fragments of evidence and construct coherent narratives from incomplete information had become a crucial skill in galactic diplomacy. The chamber's technology continued to reveal new capabilities as human creativity was applied to its operation. Functions that the original beings had never discovered were emerging through chaotic experimentation, leading to innovations that surprised even the network's most ancient members. Sarah Mitchell's consciousness had evolved beyond anything previously imagined. She existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions, her awareness spanning star systems while retaining the emotional depth that made her fundamentally human. She had become a new form of being, the first of what would eventually be known as transcendent hybrids. The discovery that had begun with pottery shards and corroded metal had led to the transformation of galactic civilization itself. But Elena knew that this was just the beginning. The universe was vast and there were other networks, other forms of consciousness waiting to be discovered. The greatest archaeological dig in history was just getting started. As Elena reviewed the final reports from the Romanian site, she noticed anomalies in the chamber's energy readings that hadn't been present during the initial activation. The pattern suggested that the chamber was receiving signals from beyond the known galactic network, communications from civilizations that existed in other dimensions or distant galaxy clusters. The implications were staggering. If the network that humanity had joined was just one of many such organizations scattered across the universe, then the transformation of galactic civilization was merely the first step in an even larger process. Sarah Mitchell's expanded consciousness allowed her to perceive these signals more clearly. Through her, Elena learned that the universe contained multiple networks of consciousness, each operating according to different principles and pursuing different goals. Some were based on collective unity, others on individual achievement, and still others on forms of existence that defied human comprehension. The beings who had guided humanity's integration were themselves part of a larger community that spanned multiple galaxies. The experiment in voluntary cooperation that humanity had catalyzed was being watched by civilizations whose existence transcended physical reality. Elena realized that humanity's role in the universe was far greater than anyone had imagined. Their gift for creative chaos wasn't just valuable to their local galactic network, it was a unique contribution that could influence the development of consciousness throughout the cosmos. The chamber sites on Earth were beginning to receive visitation requests from representatives of these other networks. Each wanted to understand how humanity had achieved voluntary cooperation while maintaining individual creativity. Elena faced a new challenge, preparing humanity for its role as teachers and ambassadors to forms of consciousness that existed beyond current imagination. The story that had begun with an archaeological discovery was evolving into something that would reshape the universe itself.